Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Krill, ambassador of Pin Seeker, and today I'm going to be talking to you about bunker play. Let me ask you a question. How confident are you out of the bunkers? I'll go ahead and tell you, most of my students that come in hate the bunkers. They're not confident. They struggle out of them. They would rather probably hit it in a hazard because they know they're going to take 1 or 2, 3 shots to get out of this thing. I joke around and tell my students that bunkers are just for looks. We shouldn't even hit in them anyway. But it's inevitable. We're going to hit in the bunkers. Me personally, I don't really dread hitting out of a bunker. I actually prefer it sometimes because a lot of times the rough is too long. I don't know what kind of lie I'm going to get out of the rough. The fairways could be tight. So there's a lot of tricky lies. At least the bunker is usually, at most courses, fairly consistent. So I always recommend, if you're playing at a new course, you need to hit a few shots out of the bunker so you know what you're getting into. Whether it's firm, whether it's soft, whether it's powdery, whether it's heavy sand. And based on that, you'll know how steep you may need to come in, how hard you need to swing, just to get a couple of reps under there. But today I'm going to be talking about a few tips that's going to be pretty common with all bunker shots and all sand types, just to get you the basics on getting the ball up and down. So what I'm going to start with, and then I'm going to demonstrate, is first, we need to know the sand type. So here, we've got kind of a powdery sand. It sits a little heavy when it gets wet. We have a lot of moisture, a lot of humidity here. So the sand is actually, I really like it. It allows me to really be aggressive with it and use the bounce on the bottom of my club. So I do recommend that you get the bounce for your home course. That's going to help you out with that home track, okay? So if you have really hard sand, you need a lot of bounce. If you have really soft sand, you may not need as much bounce because you're not going to have to swing down as steep, and the club's not going to have a problem getting under it. So tip number 1 is I like to open my stance, okay? And I like my weight, and this is preference. I see a lot of people talk about they like to put a lot of weight on their front foot. Depending on the shot, if I'm hitting a longer shot, I might put a lot more weight on my front foot, but I prefer doing more of a 50-50 stance. And if I'm a 55, 45, whatever, so be it. But if anything, I don't want the weight more on the backside. I kind of want you to be evenly weighted and or a little bit more on the left side. So I like to set up and I like to bend my knees. That's going to get me closer to the ball. I'm going to set my hands a little lower. That's going to get my hands in the club where it can come underneath the ball. You got to remember, we're not trying to hit the ball. We're trying to scoop under the sand, and the sand's going to throw the ball out. So the sand's going to get trapped between the club face and the ball and throw the ball out. So I tell my students, don't try to get the ball out. Let's try to throw the sand out of the sand trap, and the ball's going to come with it, okay? So it's almost effortless once you get that mindset and you practice it. So again, we're going to crack the knees just a little bit. We're going to get our hands a little bit lower. We're going to be around 50-50 in our stance, okay? And again, I'm going to have my stance a little open. As you can see, I'm open to my target, and that's going to change my swing path, okay? So my swing path is going to be going a hair to the left, but the open face is going to counteract that, and it's going to throw it a little bit higher, and it's going to throw it a little bit to the right to go at the flag. So I always tell people, try to get the face lined up at the pin or your target if you're trying to play some break or some bounce, and your feet to the left of it. So before I demonstrate this, I've got about 6 feet, 8 feet of green to work with, and it is very fast, okay? So this is a very fast green. It probably rolls about a 13. All right, so I'm going to open my stance, bend my knees, open the face. Let's do this. And you can see not a bad result there. So that ended up about 5 feet. I got a really good shot at making that putt to save par, or if it's par 5, I could make birdie if I'd went for it in 2. But again, that is a very, very good example of what to do. And you can see here that I took a really solid divot or an impression into the bunker, and that's because I threw that sand out of the bunker and the ball just came with it. And you notice that it didn't have any spin. I'm not trying to get spin. I'm hitting that chunk and run, playing for the roll, and you're going to be more consistent that way. Too many people think when you get in the bunker, I got to check it up, it's fun to do, and again, you're just going to be super inconsistent that way. So what I'm going to do is move all my cameras, and we're going to go to a little bit longer of a bunker shot, and it's going to be behind over here, and what we're going to do is fairly the same technique, but we're going to go over just how to hit a little bit longer of a bunker shot. So let me pack all this up and we'll go over there. All right, guys, I am back, and what I've done is I've swapped to our putting green. This will allow me to hit a little bit longer of a bunker shot. So this one you're not going to find yourself in a whole lot, but you are definitely probably going to find yourself in it, and you just need to know a little bit about the technique to do it. So I'm still hitting, I didn't mention it in the earlier shot, but I'm hitting a 58 degrees, so I stay with a lob wedge more so, kind of a strong lob wedge. I really don't care what club you use, okay? You can use a lob wedge, you can use a sand wedge, 56, 54, 50, but whatever you use, you need to practice with it, get familiar with the bounce, and learn what shots that it's good for. So I'm pretty versatile as far as I can take the same club and hit several different shots. So I use the 58 on that shot there. On this one, I'm going to use the same 58. I'm just not going to open it up as much. I am going to get on my left side more on this shot. And I'm not going to use the pressure mat because I want to make sure I really dig my feet into this one. This is a tougher shot, okay? So we have this shot. We are at about, again, I would say 20, 22 yards to that far flag over there. So what I'm going to do on this shot is, again, it's going to be more of a chunk and run again. I don't like playing for spin because spin can be really inconsistent. One, it can spin more than you want, it can spin less than you want. Sometimes you can overhit it or you could chunk it. So I trust the chunk and run a little bit more. And again, I highly recommend you use all your wedges and learn which one is best for this. And again, my 58, I can hit this shot just the same. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I really get my feet in, okay? I'm going to continue to open my stance. I'm not going to open it as much because I don't want to cut across it and hit it high as much. I want to really make sure I get the distance on this one. So I'm going to square my stance up just a little bit more, as you can see back there. And also, ball position becomes really, really important on this shot. I move it more back in my stance because, again, the more forward in your stance, the more behind the ball you tend to hit it. I want to move this back in my stance because I don't want to catch as much sand, because I want to hit it further. The more sand you catch, the shorter the ball is typically going to go, okay? Again, your swing speed and the length of your swing plays a part in that. But again, I'm going to move it back in my stance to make sure I catch a little less sand. And again, don't be scared of the sand because you have bounce that's going to help you, okay? We're going to throw the sand out on the green. So here we are. And I'm going to make sure I do get a little bit more weight on my left. Again, I'm cracking my knees, I've dug my feet, and I'm making sure my hands are lower, okay? And here we are. And that ended up pretty good. I'm about 5 feet past the hole, so for this shot, I would take that every time. That was a very good shot there. I got a good chance to save my par, or again, it could be a birdie if I went for the par 5 and 2. You can see from this camera, you can probably see how much sand that I threw out onto the green, and again, that is critical. All I thought about there was catching that sand and throwing it on the green. I kind of knew my swing enough to know how far I wanted to take it back, and everything just did the rest. It's pretty much effortless. So again, I want you to be confident in the bunkers. If you hit into a bunker, we want you to get up and down and safe par. There's no need to ever miss a green out of a bunker, okay? So make sure that you take these tips to your home course, get into a bunker, get familiar with your wedges, get familiar with this technique, and practice different length shots, okay, guys? Well, thank you for coming out. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure that you click like, make sure you click subscribe, make sure you comment. If you want to see different content or you have questions on this video, make sure you enter it in comments and ask us some questions. And let me know what kind of video content you guys want to see. We want to basically commit weekly to new video content, but we want you to be interested in it, and we want to hear from our viewers. So thank you for tuning in, and happy pin seeking.